My book, baby! Don't you ever touch...
No movie has ever had a cast get beaten up by illness the way Happy Gilmore did. This was originally a 1996 sports comedy that pushed Adam Sandler into becoming a 90s icon with those crazy golf shots and unforgettable showdowns. But behind the laughs, the lives of the cast seemed caught in some kind of shared curse. A woman who once had American men in the 90s completely hooked turned out to be living with a pacemaker. One of the kindest faces in the movie lost his right leg in real life after a horrific accident. And the most beloved mentor in the film suffered from a back injury for years, then eventually passed away from atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Let's take a look back at how those faces have changed and what life has done to them now that Happy Gilmore turns 30. And stick around because at the end of the video, I've saved 5 pretty valuable behind-the-scenes facts for the real loyal fans. Number 1, Adam Sandler as Happy Gilmore. Let's start with Adam Sandler because without him, there is no Happy Gilmore. He was born in 1966. When the movie came out in 1996, Sandler was 30. This year, he's 60. More importantly, this role came right after he got dropped by NBC from Saturday Night Live after 5 years as a cast member. Sandler said that hit stuck in his throat because he honestly had no idea where he was going next. So for him, Happy Gilmore wasn't just a hit movie. It was a counterpunch from a guy who had just been shown the door. And that punch landed. Happy Gilmore hit theaters on February 16, 1996, released by Universal, and pulled in about $41.4 million worldwide on a budget of around $12 million. For an actor fresh off television and seen as too goofy, that was a real win. But don't forget this, Sandler didn't rise on critical applause. After Billy Madison and then Happy Gilmore, he got hit hard by critics. He learned to avoid reading reviews so he wouldn't feel like he was getting punched in the head every morning. That's something older men in the audience will get right away. Sometimes you let people talk and you just keep moving. Sandler's personal life isn't full of scandals. The weight is somewhere else. He admitted that when he was younger, he was too competitive, too hot-headed, too quick to react. Then life hit him hard when his father, Stanley Sandler, passed away from lung cancer in 2003. I think that's why Sandler is aged differently from a lot of other comedy stars. He doesn't try to stay forever young. He stays who he is, keeps going. Came back to host SNL in 2019, won the Mark Twain Prize in 2023, and by 2025 returned to the very role that saved him almost 30 years earlier. That's not about fame anymore. That's durability. Number 2, Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. How could we skip Christopher McDonald? Born in 1955, when Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 41. This year he's 71. And here's what makes his story interesting before becoming Shooter McGavin. McDonald was tired of being used by Hollywood as the same slick-suited villain with a smug grin who walks off screen. He even said he turned the role down twice because he was exhausted after back-to-back shoots in Vancouver and didn't want to leave his wife and kids carrying everything at home.
I did a lot of it, and I turned the first couple ones down.
That weekend, McDonald went golfing in
Seattle. This is a different guy. How does he think? How does he? So I went through the whole
take the role.
Good training as an.
After a short meeting with Adam Sandler, he said yes. That decision changed how audiences remember him. McDonald has hundreds of roles, but Shooter McGavin is the one that stuck. He admitted it took years to realize it was a gift that keeps on giving because everywhere he goes, people call him Shooter, not Christopher. For many actors, that's an annoying shadow. For McDonald, it became a legacy. His personal life is where things get heavier. In 2007, on his own 52nd birthday, McDonald lost his brother, Daniel McDonald, to brain cancer. 10 years later, he hit a very real fall, arrested for DUI in 2017. Then in 2019, had to do community service probation and alcohol education programs. But the key thing is he didn't disappear. McDonald kept working, kept his family with Lupe McDonald, has 4 kids, and recently returned as Shooter in Happy Gilmore 2. I think that's what stands out about him. He once feared this role would just be another villain. Turns out it's what kept him alive in people's memories. Number 3, Julie Bowen as Virginia Venet. Julie Bowen is the kind of face American men from the 90s remember for a long time, but what most people
How about the guy who comes in last place?
is just a few years after the movie, she had to live with a pacemaker. Born in 1970, she was 26 when Happy Gilmore came out in 1996. This year, she's 56. Her role as Virginia Vennet made her unforgettable as a smart, sharp woman who could stand in the middle of all those loud men in the movie and never get overshadowed. After Happy Gilmore, Julie Bowen didn't fade away like many comedy actresses from that era. She built steadily through ER, Ed, Boston Legal, then really broke out with Modern Family and won 2 Emmy Awards. But her real life is what makes people look at her differently. At 29, she had to get a pacemaker due to a heart rhythm disorder. She said her resting heart rate dropped very low, and doctors even warned she could pass out while driving. For someone that young, that's the kind of news that makes you feel like your life just turned into a dark direction. Bowen admitted she thought she was dying. Then, in 2018, her 13-year marriage with Scott Phillips ended. They have 3 sons, and the divorce was finalized with about $25 million split evenly. What stands out about Julie Bowen is she doesn't turn tragedy into a performance. She just keeps going. By 2025, when Happy Gilmore 2 was being made, she honestly thought Hollywood would replace her with a younger woman. That fear is real harsh and very true to how the industry treats older women. But she still came back. To me, that's what's impressive. Today, Julie Bowen isn't just a face men remember. She's a woman who went through heart issues, divorce, fear of aging, and still stands right where she belongs. Number 4, Carl Weathers as Chubbs Peterson. Carl Weathers wasn't the kind of actor brought into Happy Gilmore just for fun. Born in 1948 when the film came out in 1996, he was 48 and already had a strong presence with American audiences. Before Chubbs Peterson, he played football at San Diego State, had time as a professional athlete, then moved into film and became an icon as Apollo Creed in Rocky, followed by Predator. But what makes his story heavier is behind the laughs. In a 2020 interview, he said he suffered a back injury while filming Happy Gilmore. It was a blind fall, and the pain was right near his spine. He said for 3 to 4 years he lived with intense pain, and it kept affecting him later. What's impressive is he didn't stop. After this movie, he kept working, acting, directing television, and in 2021 even got an Emmy nomination for The Mandalorian. That's what earns respect. He didn't live as a relic of his golden era. He worked until his final years. Carl Weathers passed away on February 1, 2024, at age 76. His family said he passed peacefully in his sleep, and later reports confirmed the cause was atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. What makes it sadder is Adam Sandler revealed Weathers had a major role planned in Happy Gilmore 2, and after his passing, a lot had to be rewritten. Chubbs wasn't just a side memory. He was part of the backbone. And when Carl Weathers passed, the film lost a piece of its unique dignity. Number 5, Frances Bay as Grandma. Frances Bay was born in 1919. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, she was 77. She wasn't the kind of actress who rose early and lived off old glory. She worked in radio before World War II, then paused her career after marriage to be a wife and mother. It wasn't until the 1970s, when she was already past 50, that she seriously returned to acting. That's what makes her story memorable from the start. The role of Grandma didn't belong to a rising star, but to a woman who took a long road before audiences recognized her face. After that, she became one of the most familiar supporting faces in American film and TV. She appeared in over 50 movies and more than 100 television shows from Seinfeld to Twin Peaks, and was so loved by colleagues that in 2008, she was honored on Canada's Walk of Fame after a huge support campaign. But her personal life is what really hits. She lost her only son, Eli Joshua Bay, in 1970 when he was just 23. Then, in 2002, she had a horrific accident in Glendale, breaking both legs, suffering head injuries, and ultimately having her right leg amputated below the knee. That same year, she also lost her husband of 56 years. For anyone, that's enough to break a lifetime. But she didn't quit. After the accident and losses, she kept working, kept appearing on TV close to the end of her life. She passed away on September 15, 2011, at age 92 after battling multiple infections with complications from pneumonia as the cause. Number 6, Alan Covert as Otto. Alan Covert was born in 1964. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 32. This year, he's 62. To general audiences, Otto is just a messy side character with few lines and limited screen time. But for those who followed Adam Sandler from the early days, Alan Covert is worth talking about because he's not just a co-star. He's one of Sandler's longtime friends, studied together at New York University, and went through it all starting from Going Overboard in 1989 before Sandler even became a star. That's what makes his story interesting. Happy Gilmore didn't turn him into an A-list star, it just showed audiences a small piece of what later became the entire Adam Sandler film universe. After that, Covert kept appearing in projects like The Wedding Singer, Big Daddy, Little Nicky Mr. Deeds, and 50 First Dates. But his real value isn't screen time, it's that he writes, produces, and works behind the scenes as part of the Happy Madison machine for many years. Put simply, he's family. His personal life isn't as loud as others in the cast. No big scandals, no headline-grabbing legal troubles. The most public event was his marriage to Catherine Ashley Hagstrom, starting in 2006 and ending in divorce, finalized in 2019. They have 4 children. Beyond that, he keeps his life private, and honestly, in Hollywood, that's sometimes more impressive. He's not someone who lives under the spotlight. He steps back, works, keeps old friendships, and shifts his role in the industry. Number 7, Ben Stiller as Hal L. Ben Stiller was born in 1965. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 31. This year, he's 61. His role as Hal L is small, but it's the kind of small role people don't forget. Just a few scenes in the nursing home were enough for him to lock in a twisted, nasty, deeply unlikable character that people remember with the line, "You're in my world now." What's interesting is at that time, Stiller hadn't reached the peak of his career yet. He had a solid foundation. Son of Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira had The Ben Stiller Show and directed Reality Bites, but the superstar image Hollywood later knew was still ahead. His personal life is where things get heavier. In 2014, he was diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer. 2 years later, he went public and said the PSA test saved his life. From diagnosis to being cancer-free took only a few months, but for a middle-aged man, that's enough to completely shift life's rhythm. Then there's his family life. He married Christine Taylor in 2000, had 2 kids, but they separated in 2017. He later admitted the period made him feel like a failure, like he couldn't live up to the long-lasting marriage his parents had. What's impressive is he didn't stay down from any of it. He recovered, reunited with Christine Taylor during the pandemic, and expanded his career into directing and producing, giving him a stronger position beyond just a comedy star. Then, in 2024, he was seen on the set of Happy Gilmore 2, returning as Hal L. After nearly 30 years, to me, that's what makes Ben Stiller interesting. A small role that lived on in people's memories, and a man who went through serious illness setbacks and still came back sharp-grounded and right, where he once made people both hate him and laugh. Number 8, Bob Barker as himself. Bob Barker did not walk into this movie as some cheerful guest star just there to make an appearance.
Bitch.
He was born in 1923. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 73. At that point, Barker was already a giant of American television, the man who hosted Truth or Consequences for 18 years and then ran The Price is Right from 1972 until he retired in 2007. He won 14 daytime Emmys as a host, plus 4 more as a producer, and he was the kind of face American audiences could look at and instantly see a golden age of daytime television. But Bob Barker's personal life was nowhere near as simple as the classy old gentleman image he had on television. The biggest tragedy of his life was the death of his wife, Dorothy Jo Gideon, in 1981 from lung cancer when she was only 57. They had been married since 1945, and according to more recent articles and accounts from people close to him, that loss pushed Barker into a deep depression that lasted for years. He later founded the DJ&T Foundation, partly to honor Dorothy Jo and his mother, while also continuing the path of animal rights activism that Dorothy Jo had influenced him toward very early on. The darker side sits in the lawsuits and backstage accusations. In 1994, former The Price is Right model Diane Parkinson sued Barker for sexual harassment. Barker admitted the two had a relationship, but said it was consensual, and in 1995, Parkinson dropped the lawsuit. Still, that was not the only case. The Los Angeles Times reported that after that, there were roughly half a dozen more lawsuits involving harassment discrimination, wrongful termination, and a toxic workplace accusations Barker denied. By 2026, former models and former staff members were still revisiting that period through interviews and docuseries, which made his legacy feel more and more split into two very clear faces: a beloved television icon and a boss surrounded by serious controversy behind the curtain. Barker passed away on August 26, 2023 at 99, closing out a life full of turbulence. Number 9, Richard Kiel as Mr. Larson. Richard Kiel was born in 1939. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 57. In 2014, he passed away at 74. For American audiences, Kiel was not some unknown supporting actor walking into this movie. He was Richard Kiel, the giant who had played Jaws in the James Bond series, a face that only had to show up, and people instantly knew this was not an ordinary man. Richard Kiel's real life was much heavier than that. That huge body came from acromegaly, an endocrine disorder that made him nearly 7 foot 2 inches tall. It made him completely unforgettable on screen, but it also meant physical life was never easy for him. Before he became famous, Kiel had worked as a nightclub bouncer and even sold burial plots at a cemetery. Then, in 1992, his life took a hard turn after a serious car accident. Kiel suffered a head injury, lost the balance he used to have, and from that point on had to walk with a cane and later sometimes used a scooter too. But the accident was not the whole story. Kiel also struggled with alcoholism, and he himself saw faith as the thing that pulled him out of that stretch of life. He also went through a failed first marriage before building a more lasting family life with Diane Rogers, who stayed by his side until the end. What is admirable about Richard Kiel is that he did not let a failing body cut him off from his audience. After the accident, he still went to fan events, still signed autographs, still stayed connected to the people who had loved him from the Bond years all the way to Happy Gilmore. When he passed away in 2014, Hollywood lost more than just a striking face. It lost a man who had lived his whole life in an unusual body through a major accident and through a whole lot of limits, and still kept his dignity right to the end. Number 10, Kevin Nealon as Gary Potter. Kevin Nealon was born in 1953. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 43. This year, he's 73. In the movie, Gary Potter is an oddball golfer off rhythm talking like his mind is floating somewhere out beyond the fairway. But in real life, Kevin Nealon was not some forgettable side player. He was already a major face from Saturday Night Live. From 1986 to 1995, had sat at the Weekend Update desk for 3 years and brought into Happy Gilmore exactly the dry, deadpan comedy style that became his trademark. Kevin Nealon's personal life did not blow up in a big scandal, but it had a lot of quiet pain. His first marriage to Linda Dupree began in 1989 and ended in divorce in 2002. Then, in 2006, Nealon made public something that was hard to swallow. His phone had been tapped, and his police records had been searched in the Anthony Pellicano detective case. For a guy in comedy who lived pretty privately, that kind of invasion makes Hollywood feel dirty in its own special way. Then, in 2021, his house was burglarized, and the thing that hurt him most was not the money, but a necklace holding the ashes of his close friend Gary Shandling. That detail is just too sad to brush past. His professional hurt was no small thing either. It was not until 2026 that Nealon learned the real reason he had been removed from the Weekend Update chair, according to a book about Lorne Michaels. An NBC executive said he did not speak clearly and called him a mushmouth. Some people get pushed out of a position and forget about it. Kevin Nealon carried that question for more than 30 years. What is admirable is that he never got loudly bitter about it. He remarried Susan Yeagley in 2005, had a son in 2007, kept acting, did Weeds, and then built himself a more mature chapter with Hiking with Kevin. This year at 73, he is still working, and he is also back as Gary Potter in Happy Gilmore 2. Number 11, Lee Trevino as himself. Lee Trevino was born in 1939. When Happy Gilmore came out in 1996, he was 57. This year, he's 87. In the movie, he is just Lee Trevino, a real-life golf legend, stepping into the chaos of Happy Gilmore and shaking his head in disgust. But his real life was a lot heavier than that cameo. Trevino grew up poor in Texas, did not know who his biological father was, and lived with his mother and his gravedigger grandfather. He started working young out in the cotton fields at 5, working as a caddy at 8, then dropped out after 8th grade to make a living. At 17, he joined the United States Marine Corps and only later worked his way onto the professional golf circuit. From a boy who almost had nothing in his hands, he became a man who won 6 majors, 29 PGA Tour titles, and entered the World Golf Hall of Fame in 1981. But that road was never as clean as a legend poster makes it look. In 1975, Trevino was struck by lightning at the Western Open, suffered burns, and then had to go through back surgeries. Later on, he admitted the accident forced him to look at himself because before that, he had been partying too much and living like he was slowly drifting away from discipline. ESPN also reported that he lost millions of dollars in the 1970s because of bad investments, and the price of his love for golf was not just financial. It also cost him a marriage and left him distant from his children. What is admirable is that Lee Trevino did not sink after those blows. After the accident, he still came back, still won more majors, and later lived long enough to look back on his life with that same dry sense of humor that was always his. In 2013, he even said he regretted doing the cameo in Happy Gilmore if he had known the movie would use that much profanity. Then in 2025, he showed up again in Happy Gilmore 2 like a reminder that some people do not need some grand role. They just step into the frame and an entire era walks in with them. Number 12, Dennis Dugan as Doug Thompson. The last spot today has to go to Dennis Dugan because he did not just appear in Happy Gilmore. He directed the movie. Born in 1946 when the film came out, in 1996, Dugan was 50. This year he's 80. Before becoming a name tightly tied to Adam Sandler, Dugan had already gone a long way in Hollywood as an actor, from The Rockford Files, MASH, Hill Street Blues, and Moonlighting to films like Can't Buy Me Love and Parenthood. Then he moved into directing Made Problem Child and Brain Donors, and with Happy Gilmore, he really touched something audiences would remember for a long time. Dennis Dugan's public personal life has not been loud in a scandal kind of way. But if you dig a little deeper, his life is full of career bruises. His marriage to Joyce Van Patten began in 1973 and ended in divorce in 1987. Later, he married Sharon O'Connor and had a son, Kelly Dugan. In one article about Kelly, Dennis Dugan himself said his son had seen both the time when his dad was hot as a director and the time when he was cold as a director, when he had to go do bad television shows just to make money and keep sharpening his craft. The most painful part of Dennis Dugan's story may be the way Hollywood looked at him. He was nominated for the Razzie for Worst Director 4 times and even won once for Jack and Jill. He also said a long time ago that he stopped reading reviews because the thing he cared about was whether audiences were still showing up for his movies. That is Dugan's own kind of toughness. He did not change his voice to win over critics, did not pretend to be some lofty artist, just kept making the stuff his audience liked, and then 30 years later still came back as Doug Thompson in Happy Gilmore 2. After all the people in front of the camera, there also has to be room for the man behind it. The one who got criticized. Plenty, but still left behind a movie people are sitting here remembering to this day. And if you are still here with me at this point, first off, I've got to be honest, you are exactly the kind of hardcore Happy Gilmore fan this is for. This movie still has a whole stash of behind-the-scenes stories, casting choices, and weird little details that could easily fill another video by themselves. So let's call this the reward for the people who stayed with it. The first fact is a really good one. Christopher McDonald turned down the role of Shooter McGavin several times because he was worn out from being typecast as a villain. But then he changed his mind, partly because he liked Adam Sandler's previous movie, partly because he happened to be out golfing in Seattle. And after that first meeting with Sandler, he took the part right away. Later, he said it was one of the smartest decisions of his career. The second fact is pure Bob Barker. At first, he was not sure he wanted to be in the movie, but once he found out his character would win the fight with Adam Sandler, he said yes right away. And the third fact is even better. When Dennis Dugan said they would use a stunt double for that fight scene, Bob Barker immediately shot it down. Basically, his response was, "Hold on, I know how to fight." The fourth fact is the kind of detail only longtime fans really notice. Every time Mr. Larson shows up, Richard Kiel is usually standing still or leaning against something. That was not random. After his serious car accident in 1992, he had balance problems. And the last fact is the kind of small story that somehow feels great. As late as 2016, Vern Lundquist said he was still getting $34 a month from the Screen Actors Guild thanks to his tiny role in this movie. And the funny part is, these are still just 5 little pieces. If you all react strongly enough to this ending section, I'll dig up a whole video with 20 insane facts about Happy Gilmore, because trust me, this movie has more crazy stories than most audiences ever knew. As a man now over 40 still trying to learn golf and honestly playing it terribly, this movie hits me in a very personal way. I had not rewatched Happy Gilmore in more than 10 years, and yet this time when I turned it on again, it was still funny, still charming, still had that kind of life in it that is hard to explain. 30 years have gone by. Faces changed, lives changed, some people are still here, some are gone, but the memory of this movie still holds the same place in the hearts of the audience, and that is why I think videos like this are worth making. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you remember most from the Happy Gilmore cast? Which character surprised you the most when you looked back after all these years, and you still remember when you first saw the movie? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you like these kinds of look backs too, because we still have a whole lot of classic movies to revisit together.